Okay. I'll start standing up. Right. We don't want to overdo it. Good evening. Welcome to Star Talk. I'm Ken Eccles, and we're happy to have you with us on the program tonight. Hope to hear from you. You can give us a call at that phone number. You see it, don't you? The phone number. You can call that number. You can also email. The email address is most likely up there for you to see as well, in case it's not. It's KECHOLS47 @gmail.com. Love to hear from you either way, by phone or by email, in this edition of Star Talk, our last show for this week. So we have some pre-arriving emails that we'll deal with here. Mr. Draper sent me a picture of his wounded pinky. Most of you know he had an accident and has a lot of stitches in his pinky. He sent me a picture of it. It doesn't look real good to me. I'm not a doctor, so I don't claim to have any particular knowledge. But it looks kind of scary. In fact, he says in his email, it don't look good, but then he says no pain. So I guess the fact that he's not having any pain is good, but it's kind of messy looking. But we will all hope and pray that it'll go in a good direction. And then we have this email. But first, this. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes. How you doing, Ken?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Yes, I keep on hearing bad news about Trump. They said if he get it again, say he don't be nothing but a dictator. And that guy, he went to school with him, say he was dumb, say he couldn't learn nothing. He have a learning disability. Trump. Now who in the world want a president like that? Okay, I just don't understand these people gonna vote for somebody like Trump. And I just cannot understand that. I'd already done voted and he won't for Trump either. So Ken, keep up the good work and a nice talking with you.
Well, thank you for calling, sir. It's good to hear from you. I'm one of the folks who has voted early. A lot of folks have voted early. Some earlier voting than we've ever had. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Well, good evening, Mr. Ken.
Good evening.
Yes, I'm back on the landline cordless phone again.
As I can tell that you are.
Yeah, I'm clear. Well, you're the young guy with the glasses is still on Dancing with the Stars.
The guy with the glasses goes on. How much time is left? Is he close to winning?
I very doubt he's going to win.
Well, you don't know. How many more weeks is it before somebody wins?
I say a couple of more weeks, but I guarantee the geek will go home.
Well, now he is, I believe, an Olympic gymnast, is he not?
Yes.
Well, you would imagine that he'd have a high level of physical coordination, which would lend itself, I suppose, to good dancing.
Yeah, but my bet is on the gymnastic woman, the big woman. My money's on her.
Okay, so they've got two gymnasts.
Yes, male and female. I'm going with the female.
What about the volleyball? Is there a volleyball player? Wasn't there a volleyball player?
I don't think so, but
Oh,
I'm putting all my money on the gymnast woman.
all right. Well, I don't know how much money gets bet on Dancing with the Stars, but whatever amount it is, I hope everybody wins, which of course not everybody can win, but I will just hope that everybody wins.
Well, I'm betting the farm on it, so double I'll probably double the farm's value.
Or lose the farm.
Nah, I don't think so.
Okay, well, we'll hope not.
Well, it was nice talking to you tonight, sir. We'll see you next week. You remind Mark that Mass Singer, 8 o'clock on your local Fox station, sir.
Yep, it won't be long now. Well, thanks for calling.
Bye, sir.
Good night. So the guy with the glasses is still on, Dancing with the Stars. Uh, the other email is about Medicare. We talked a little bit about Medicare last night, and the emailer says, Ken, I know that Medicare Part C is not going away. There was some rumors like that, but it's not. But is Medicare Part C one of the things that brings the financial trouble for Medicare closer? Does Medicare Part C cost Medicare more money than regular Medicare? I've heard somebody say that it does. Do you know? Well, I know. Of course, I don't know anything, except I know what the numbers are. And all these numbers are published by the Center for Medicare Services. According to the numbers that they publish, uh, if if you say if you have a Medicare Part C policy, and if say your spouse has a traditional Medicare supplement policy, then your Medicare Part C policy is costing the government anywhere from 13 to 20% more than your spouse's traditional Medicare policy. And the reason for that is something we'll get into in a minute. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Hey, Ken, it's Mark Comedian.
Hey, Mark. How are you?
Okay, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
That's good. And thanks to Charles Danville for reminding me about the Masked Singer. Tonight's
Okay.
Barbie night.
Okay, well, good. It's good of him to do that.
Yeah, tonight's Barbie night. I don't know what they'll be singing on tonight.
Oh, it's Barbie night. Oh, that's right. Somebody called last night and told me it's going to be Barbie night tonight.
Yeah, I don't know what song. I don't know what song they'll be singing tonight. I don't know.
I cannot imagine. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I just want to tell everybody to get out and vote, and make sure you vote. And if you hadn't registered to vote, go out and register to vote, and then vote early vote.
Well, that's good advice, Mark. I hope everybody will do that.
Yeah, and let's see. I guess that'd be it. And I got number 11, Denny Hamlin for the race.
Well, let me see. Yep, that's what you got. Number 11.
Yeah, we should be lucky on that one. Okay.
I wish you luck,
thanks, Ken.
Mark. I wish you luck
Okay,
on
thanks,
that.
Ken. Okay, thanks, Ken.
Well, thanks for calling, Mark. Good to hear from you. Listen, Mark has the 11. We still have not heard from Major or Pretty Man. I hope they can kill each other. We haven't heard from Captain Midnight yet, or from Mr. Pelham, or the Liberal, or somebody. Oh, Tar Heel in Mayodan. Don't have his prediction yet, but I'm sure they'll come along in a timely fashion. Getting back to the email, the thing about Medicare Part C is it costs the government more. And the primary reason for that is Medicare Part C has to include profit for the insurance company. So the government pays the private insurer to provide, obviously, insurance coverage for the policyholders. But the government has to provide a little extra so that the private insurance company makes a profit. So that's why Medicare Part C, which involves a private insurance policy, costs the government more than traditional Medicare. Now, what's actually the tangible effect on the Medicare funding, and how much closer does that bring the day when the Medicare Trust Fund goes underwater? I don't know exactly, but it does bring it closer. Uh, so that's the reason that some people have talked about, and there's no plan to do this. There's no bill introduced or anything like that. But some people have talked about maybe they ought to eliminate Part C plans because they are draining money faster from Medicare. But no one has done that. If you have a Part C plan, nobody's about to take it away from you. That's just something that they're talking about in Washington. And of course, we presume that at some point, somebody in Congress will begin to address the questions of Medicare solvency and Social Security solvency. So far, Congress is not addressing that. Neither of our presidential candidates has addressed it, so we're waiting to see. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
How you doing tonight, Ken?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Before I forget it, I want to pick. I'm going out on the limb, pick Biffle for the not Biffle, Busher for the race Sunday.
I was going to say, if you're picking Biffle, you have no chance.
I probably have as good as Busher as I will Biffle, but I'm gonna go with number 17.
Mr. Pelham takes number 17. All right. Well, you're the one of the people in contention. So you need to make a big move, though, to have a chance. So maybe that'll be a big move.
Well, I'm hoping nobody else will pick him. So if he does win, I'll be close to the top anyway. You know?
Well, nobody else has.
Well, so far, but hope it don't change. You know, don't make a stew on Halloween, Ken. So if you're around Halloween night, I'll turn you on some of it.
You're making a stew on Halloween night. That's not too far away.
Well, we're gonna clean the pot up Monday, cook the meat Tuesday or Wednesday, and then the rest of it finish it off on Halloween. So.
And how would I go about getting my hands on some of that stew?
I'll drop you some off here at home.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Well, I'll have one then. Yes.
Yeah. You certainly will.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yes, sir. You know, people talking about Biden and the price of gas and oil production and all that. You know, Biden has nothing in the world to do with your property taxes being reevaluated. You know, he don't control the price of a loaf of bread or a can of biscuits or bacon. He has no control over that, as you know. I mean, private industry can charge whatever they want to on any product. But people don't understand that. They look at the inflation as it is and say, okay, that's Biden's fault. That's Biden's fault. No, it ain't. That's American greed that's causing that.
Well, you know, it's the inflation. Of course, right now the inflation rate's not so bad. Of course, we still have the high prices that we got when the inflation rate was bad. But at the moment, the inflation rate is not high here. It's not high around the world. But inflation was not an American thing. Inflation was a worldwide thing in those months, and then going on into a couple of years after COVID shut down, and then after everything started working again, there was worldwide inflation. And, you know, you can argue, and people do argue, well, the president of the United States causes inflation, but I don't know how the president could have caused inflation in, say, Italy or Norway. Inflation happened everywhere, and no, it is not within the control of the president of the United States or the prime minister of the United Kingdom or the president of Italy. It's just not within their control.
You know, Ken, I talked to my Republican friends about the same thing, and every time I mention that same subject you just said, you know, what they got to do with the price of eggs in China or whatever, I said, well, that's different. I said, well, how is it different if it's worldwide? It's not Biden's fault. You know, had Trump won in 2020, which he did not, you know, it's a supply and demand thing. When you got everybody sitting at home sick or afraid of being sick with COVID, there's nobody working. There's nothing moving. So naturally, the supply and demand situation is going to cause everything to go up. And once it went up, people, the manufacturers and corporations, they said, well, they'll pay this. We'll just add a little more and a little more and a little more. But you know, all that stuff's not Biden's fault. And, you know, for people that's fixing to vote or hadn't voted yet, they need to remember there's this casino up there in Madison that, you know, a lot of people want. And you know, I wouldn't mind it either way. It don't matter to me either way, because I'm not going to be a gambling junkie anyway, no matter what they bring in here. But Richard Burr is all for that. And so are all the 5 county commissioners in Rockingham County. So people need to remember that when they want to complain about something every day, and their local government's doing them just as bad as any other government is.
Well, I don't know what we do. We tend to hold politicians accountable for some things and not for others. And I think it depends on what we think of the politician. If there's an office holder, whether it's a county commissioner or a governor or a senator or whoever it is, if people generally like that politician and have good feelings about that politician, then that politician can get away with a thing or two that people don't like. I mean, that's the way it's always been. If people don't much like that politician, then they can't get away with anything. As far as the Rockingham County commissioners go, I think the county commissioners, the ones who favored the casino, were generally very popular with the voters. And I think the voters are giving them a pass on the casino as long as the casino does not appear. Now, if the casino shows up at one point and there it is sitting over there next to Camp Carefree, then that may change. But right now, failing that, I don't think the people are really going to punish those politicians for it.
No, they won't now, Ken, but, you know, the day is coming when they're going to say, well, daggone, I wish they hadn't have done what I've done, but, you know, it's going to be what it is. I mean, another thing, too, quickly. Virginia Fox. Can anybody name anything that woman's done since she got to the House of Representatives? I mean, just name one thing. And she's been there since when? 2005, I think?
I think so. Well, she has supported Republican priorities and Republican programs, and I think her Republican constituency is that's what they want her to do, and I think they're probably satisfied with that.
Yeah, and by the way, you know, the commissioner for North Carolina Insurance, he's seeking his 3rd term too. So when your personal insurance goes up for your house, you know, just think about who's in charge of that in Raleigh. He's a Republican also. Ken, thanks so much for taking the call, man, and really enjoyed the program.
Well, thanks for calling. The phone line is open at that number. The email address is up there too. You can give us an email, give us a call, or send us an email as you see fit. We'd love to hear from you either way. So Mr. Pelham has a 17. This here emailer says, well, Ken, in answer to Mr. Pelham's question, I will say this. I think that the policies put forward by Donald Trump and also by the Rockingham County Commissioners are policies that, hang on a second. Hello, caller. I'll be with you in just a second. Hang on there. I think those policies are the policies that are most beneficial to me and to the nation and to Rockingham County. And that is why I vote Republican, not because everything that every Republican does is exactly what I want them to do, but because nothing that Democrats do is exactly what I want them to do. And there is not any perfect politician. We have to pick the one that overall we think is the best. Right? Thanks, emailer. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good evening to you, Ken.
Good evening.
I'd like to dovetail, if I could, real quickly on Mr. Pelham's conversation there.
Okay.
It occurred to me that something I wanted to say to your audience is this, and actually this occurred before his call. I want to stand up and tell you, everybody, that in regards to the cost of your eggs, your milk, your gasoline, your commodities, I'm responsible for the cost you're paying, not the executive branch.
So you're taking the rep.
Absolutely, I'll take the rep. And for what it's worth, there's a whole lot of folks out there who don't realize they should be taking the rep also.
Elaborate.
Well, let's start at this point. I hold investments. Some people hold investments. Some people are holding a retirement plan, a pension plan, so forth and so on. And the way those agencies fund themselves is through something called futures, where they buy commodities on the market, like the oil you were talking about the other day that the government doesn't own, that Shell Oil owns. These groups buy futures that establishes the price we're going to be paying down the road for these objects. And the reality is in regards to milk, eggs, gasoline, bread, all your commodities, they operate out of Chicago, out of a different market entirely. And I sat here reviewing some documents I got just day before yesterday from my financial advisor, and I went, there's a whole lot of money going to a whole lot of places, invested in a whole lot of things that I'm sure nobody, and I didn't have any idea about. But at the end of the day, if you hold a retirement plan, if you hold a pension plan, if you hold investments, you are in fact involved in the high cost that everybody pays, and not the executive branch of the government.
All right, let's back up a second. You have taken responsibility for inflation along with everybody else who shares the responsibility. So would you say the remedy is for people not to have 401ks and not to have these investments? I know, but people aren't going to do that.
No, I'm not suggesting that, and I'm not going to get rid of my investments either. But at the end of the day, you have to understand this. The cost that I pay for a gallon of milk, I am responsible for far more than the executive branch of the government is. And you're right. After COVID, supply and demand thing was the big deal. Demand went sky high. Everybody had been sitting home collecting monies, some given to us by the government, with no way to spend it. Then all of a sudden, we come out of the heart of the pandemic. People have a pocket full of money. There's all kinds of things they want, so they go out and buy it. And that's the way it works. Now, for what it's worth also, in my 72 years of living, I have to admit this. Prices have gone up every day my entire life. That's simply the cost of living. That's the way it's going to be. And people, you have to stop blaming the politicians for the cost of living that we all endure in 2024.
We live certainly in this country, we live in a free enterprise economy, and we should have a free enterprise economy. I think it's the best kind of economy to have because all the others are worse. But in this free enterprise economy, there are businesses that exist to make money. And why wouldn't they? Why would we expect a business to do anything else? So if basically what you're saying, and I think I understand you correctly, is just that the very nature of our economy, which is driven by profit, mandates that prices will go up no matter what. Is that what you're telling us?
Exactly right. I mean, you look at it this way. There's been there was a news story yesterday, I think it was, about the Boeing strike ongoing and how they think they're finally reaching the end of the Boeing strike, if I recall that correctly. Now here's what's going to happen. They're talking about a huge pay increase for those union workers. All right, I'm not going to argue that with them. But at the end of the day, who's going to pay for that increase? It's the guy who's buying the plane ticket to go flying off on vacation somewhere that's going to pay that increase in price. The government had nothing to do with it.
I remember I've mentioned seeing my father's paycheck in 1950 something, and he had the best job in Reedsville. He worked for American Tobacco Company, and his take-home pay in that check was $64 for a week.
Yeah.
And we don't have to think a whole lot to figure out what a difference, how far that $64 would go down. So basically, and what you're saying is correct. Basically, one of the dynamics of a growing economy is inflation. Now, we don't want 6, 8, 9% inflation, which we saw for a couple of years, but inflation itself will always be with us.
Absolutely. You look, I was watching a show the other day. They were talking about a 1968 Plymouth Roadrunner, and they were talking about what the price on that sticker was for that car. It was well under $4,000. Now, can you imagine going into a dealership and buying a new car for less than $4,000 today?
Not likely. Not likely.
No, indeed. Your average pickup truck is going to run you $60,000 to $80,000 right there on the lot.
Well, of course. Of course.
So at the end of the day, I just wish that people would finally understand that things like the economics and your wallet has nothing to do, very little to do with the government, and has everything to do with us supplying them. If we didn't run out and buy the newest and bestest, if everybody wasn't running out to buy the new iPhone, guess what would happen to the price of iPhones? It would come down.
True.
But that's the way we operate. And I'm not bad-mouthing us for it. I'm just saying people need to understand this, especially before they go to the voting booth, when they have heard all of this garbage from both sides back and forth. I'm going to do this, I can do that, he can't. When the fact is they're both not telling you straight up. So, Ken, I just want to say to everybody out there, if you want to get mad at the prices, at somebody for the price of your eggs and milk, I'm responsible. Plain and simple.
All right. Would you like to give us
a word on all that? And for what it's worth, for those who've been hollering about this, yes, I am financially far better off over the last 4 years than I was the 4 years previous to that. And I've got the records to back that one up.
Well,
again,
thanks.
I thank you. Have a good evening.
Thanks for calling. I, of course, and I admit, I went right out and bought the very newest Chevrolet S10 pickup truck in 1998. Of course, I'm still driving it. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please. Caller? Hello, caller. All right. Well, we seem to have lost that caller. Sorry, caller. You can try again, and maybe he is trying again. Hi, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Ken, I want to ask you a question. I've never heard of it. Like, if you voted early, can you change your vote?
No. Once you have cast that vote and put it in the system, you cannot go back and change it.
Oh, okay. I wanted to know about that. I've never heard of it. Don't nobody say nothing about that. But,
Nope. I know sometimes people wish they could. I know somebody today who told me that he wants to change his vote, but you can't do
it. I know. If I know what I know now, I believe I'd have went the other way.
Well, I'm sure you voted wisely, because I'm sure you're a wise man.
Yeah. Okay. I'll talk to you later, Ken.
Thanks for calling. No, you can't change your vote. Now, if you, in fact, there's an example of this in Georgia that has been mischaracterized on the internet for the last day or two. There was a lady in Georgia who marked the wrong candidate. On a voting machine, she chose the candidate other than the one she meant to choose. But in that case, she went directly to a poll worker, immediately, directly to a poll worker and told the poll worker what she had done. Now, in a case like that, the poll worker was able to void her first ballot, and she was able to vote again and choose the candidate she intended to choose. But that was a case of someone mistakenly voting for the candidate they didn't want, and then right away, pointing that out to a poll worker. And so she was able to change her vote in that case. But once the choice has been made and the paper's been fed into the reader or however they do it in the place that you vote, once that vote is in the system, then it's in there for good. Let's see, we've got some emails over here. So bear with me a second while I get this thing opened up again. Ken, what about that casino? Is that casino going to appear in Rockingham County? Phil Berger said it's a dead issue, but did that mean it's a dead issue for now or a dead issue forever? What do you know? Emailer, I know exactly what you know about that. Yeah, it is and was a dead issue for this session of the General Assembly. And obviously they didn't do anything. They didn't take any steps or make any attempt to move the casino along. Will that be true in the next session or the session after that? I don't know. I have not heard anybody. Senator Berger may have spoken to that at some point. If he did, I didn't hear it, and I don't know. All I know that he said was it's a dead issue. So dead issue now or a dead issue forever. As the years roll by, we will find the answer to that particular question. This emailer says, Ken, are you going to have election night coverage like you used to do with Mark Childry? Well, given that Mark is not here anymore, I would say no. And then it goes on to say, arguing about inflation. Inflation is caused by many things, but it's always the result of too much money chasing too few goods. And all of the free COVID money did indeed play a role in our inflation, coupled with the shutdown of production due to everyone staying at home for so long. So while the president and Congress would not be the sole cause of inflation, the policies of sending lots of free checks to everyone and closing things down so long did indeed cause the inflation to be higher than it otherwise would have been. And for the record, Trump started it with his free checks to all, and then Biden followed it up with a ton of free checks to everyone. That's the COVID money the emailer is talking about. So to me, Trump and Biden played a role in our inflation. And Biden trying to cancel student loans leads to more inflation, as the people who took out student loans have money now to buy automobiles and other things that they would not have had if they were paying their loans off. I wish someone could cancel my mortgage and I could go buy a new car and drive up inflation some more. The interesting comments, emailer, which all go to show, in case we hadn't noticed already, how complicated of a thing it is. We want, in a thriving economy, we want people to make more money and have more money and buy more things. That's how economies grow and how we all thrive. And yet, as the caller and the emailer both point out, it is the fact of people making more money, having more money, whether they earn it or whether it comes from the government, having more money and buying more things. Those same things that we say are good things to strengthen and grow an economy, those are the very things that support and tend to cause inflation. So it's really a complicated business. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Ken.
Yes.
One quick note there.
Okay.
Number 22, please.
Oh, you're taking the 22? Well, I'm not going to talk about your past experiences with him. We'll just let that lie.
I'm going to give him another chance.
Okay.
So he'll say nothing. And look, one thing that I heard tonight is sad some say them does nothing they agree with. So I'm guessing they don't agree with reducing the price of insulin, or they don't agree with creating a lot of new jobs. So I'll leave that right there at that. But now, a quick reply for the stupid liberals, since I wasn't able to make it last night.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ken, if Democrats are so stupid, mega extremists, please explain the following to me. Why is Trump administration and staff choosing Kamala Harris in the election? Why has a woman who has had only 3 months prep debating Mr. Tough Guy and mop the floor with him? So bad Fox News admitted it, and he wants no more of her. Next, why is she running neck to neck after only a few months in the race? And lastly, when was the last time a president-owned vice president never endorsed him? So those are the questions that I have. And now, if we are so stupid, why we do not believe the following, and you do. They are eating your dogs and cats. I'm so rich, I don't need your money, but I beg more than any president ever. I won the 2020 election. I never met Stormy Daniels. They are doing sex changes in our school, but there's zero record of this. FEMA never showed up in Asheville. Now, and lastly, this one, if they believe this one, this is the kicker. Mexico will pay for the wall. So who's stupid enough to believe the above? One thing about a cult, people don't know that they are in it. Remember Jim Jones and lay off the Kool-Aid.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Enjoy your show, and wish me luck this weekend.
You and the 22. Good luck. So, Liberals has the 22, and I think we may have a decision from Pretty Man. And we do. Hello, this is Pretty Man, he says. I choose the number 48. Interesting. I choose the number 48 for Homestead, and that is all I have to say. Well, uncharacteristically brief from Pretty Man, but Pretty Man is taking the 48. All right. So we are missing, who are we missing? We're missing the Avenger, Captain Midnight, and Tar Heel in Mayodan. And then we'll have them all. Ken, you talk about the polls being off, and they are. But I have this question to put to you, okay? If we look at how the polls were off in the 2020 election, and then if we say that the polls are going to be off in the 2024 election, exactly the same as they were in the 2020 election, then who wins? Oh, well, that's an easy that's an easy one to answer. If the polls are wrong, and they are wrong, we just don't know how wrong and in which direction they are. But if, as the emailer suggests, if the polls are wrong to the same degree and in the same direction that they were wrong in 2020, then Donald Trump wins this election by uh, at least an electoral vote landslide. Probably not a popular vote landslide, but that doesn't count. He wins by an electoral vote landslide if the polls are off to the same degree and in the same direction that they were off in 2020. Because you may recall in 2020, as we got up to election day, the polls had Joe Biden winning very, very, very comfortably. Um, Joe Biden, according to the polls, was anywhere from 3, 4, 5, 6, in some cases 7 points ahead in some of the swing states, and was headed for an enormous win in the Electoral College. As we also know, that's not how it worked out. Of course, in the end, he did win by a healthy margin of votes in the Electoral College, but many of those states, especially states like Wisconsin and Michigan, he won by less than 1 percentage point, whereas the polls had him winning by 3 or 4 or 5 points. So if the pollsters are making the exact same mistakes this time that they made in 2020, then Donald Trump would be reelected with a huge majority in the Electoral College. Are those the mistakes the pollsters are making? Well, see, there's the question. I don't know the answer. I know they're making mistakes because they always do. But whether they're making the same mistakes this time, or whether they're making a new and different set of mistakes, that's the one that we can't know, because most of the pollsters say that they have made adjustments. Uh, and of course, pollsters always think that they've got it right. And we've had it wrong all these years, but this time we've got it right. Um, and it's natural for them to think that. So they all tell us that they've made adjustments since 2020 that makes their polling more accurate. But there's only one way to test that. Only one way to test whether they've made their polling more accurate, and that's to have a presidential election. So we'll have that election, and we will test whether or not the polls are now more accurate. Ken, I read that they took a gun away from a guy at the Charlotte airport today. He was trying to get on an airplane with a loaded gun. That's scary, don't you think? Well, yeah. Um, yeah, it's scary in a way, and then in another way, it's non-scary because they detected the gun and took it away from him. So that's sort of the way we want it to work at airport security. So in that way, it's sort of comforting. Although the fact that he was trying to get on the airplane with a loaded gun, that one is a little bit scary. That was, and I'm looking for this and actually finding it even as we speak. That was the 100th 100th gun found this year at airports by TSA. Now, that's not just in Charlotte. That's not 100 in Charlotte. That was the 100th gun confiscated at airport boarding points by TSA this year. So, you know, it happens. People do it. In many cases, people say that they forgot they had it, didn't even know they had it, and that they're as surprised as anybody when it's found on them. So I'm sure that's the case with some folks and different cases with different people. But yes, that did happen today at Charlotte Douglas Airport. Ken, here's my weekly question about the Blue Ridge Parkway. It's still not too late to go to the parkway and see some fall leaves, but is the parkway open yet? Um, some of it is. It's open in Virginia. I think we told you that last time. It's open in Virginia. In North Carolina, there's about 20 miles of the parkway open now, and it is near Boone, Blowing Rock. It is from Blowing Rock, I think 20 miles north. I think from Blowing Rock, 20 miles north up the parkway is now open. But that is all of the parkway that's open now in North Carolina. So yeah, that's a 20-mile stretch, and you could certainly see some fall foliage in that 20-mile stretch. But that 20-mile stretch is going to have to do you for right now, because that's the only place where the Blue Ridge Parkway is open in North Carolina. Ken, speaking of the polls, and you are right, the polls did underestimate Donald Trump's support by a whole lot in 2020. But what about 2022? In 2022, the polls said that the Republicans were going to get 50 or 60 or 70 seats in the House of Representatives, and they got only a bare handful, just barely enough to get a small majority. So don't you have to say that the polls vastly overestimated Republican strength in 2022? And maybe that tells you that they have made adjustments, but adjusted too far in favor of the Republicans. What do you think? Well, you're right. They did vastly overestimate and overpredict Republican success in the 2022 midterms. So that certainly is something to consider, and it's a viable point. You also have to consider this, that midterm electorate and all midterm electorates are by and large significantly different from the presidential electorate. A lot of people vote in a presidential election who don't vote in a midterm election. And I don't know the exact number. I can't give you the exact number. But we do know it's a whole lot of people. There are folks who only vote in presidential elections and don't vote in any other elections. So it is a different electorate, at least to some degree. This electorate that'll vote this November and the electorate that voted in November of 2022. So that makes it kind of tricky to make comparisons. And if you add into that, there's a significant number of people who will vote in this presidential election for Donald Trump, who have no loyalty and no regard for the Republican Party. Their loyalty is to Donald Trump. And when they go and vote for Donald Trump, they're voting for Donald Trump. They're not voting for a Republican. A lot of them couldn't care one whit about the Republican Party. Their loyalty is to Donald Trump. Those are folks who most likely didn't vote in 2022. So that really makes it hard to compare a midterm and a presidential election. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Ken, taking my call.
Sure.
This person that called in a few minutes ago talking about pushing the wrong buttons. I was at Food Line this past week, and I pushed the wrong button next to the enter, and it took $5 donation.
Okay.
And then when I got my receipt, I told them I had pushed the wrong button, and they would not change it.
Huh.
And they wouldn't tell me what the money was going towards. It was just Food Line charities. And it seems like a lot of places I go now, Dollar General included, and Food Line, and several other places, you have to push a button to say you don't want to donate money. Now,
You have to
like
opt out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to make a mistake when the button's right beside another one, or or somebody elderly, real elderly, probably more than me, or a little bit of dementia. They just getting money out of people that really don't want to put the money.
All right. Well, now let's back up just a second. So if I understood you correctly, you made a mistake. You pushed the button to donate $5 and you didn't mean to. And then you went straight to an employee and said, I made a mistake. I want you to cancel this donation. You went straight to him immediately, right?
No, I didn't know that I had made a mistake till I got my receipt.
Okay.
And I checked my receipt and saw that I'd made the donation. And then I went back and they wouldn't change it.
Okay. Did you had you left the store?
No, I was right. No, I never did even leave I was 10 feet away from the register, and I talked to the store manager or the one assistant manager, and I asked her, I said, what is this money going towards? And she couldn't tell me what charity it was going towards. She told me she thought it was going to Salvation Army, but she didn't know.
Well, I'm surprised that they wouldn't void that. I really am.
Well, I finally got tired of talking to them, and I told them just let it go. But I've noticed a lot of places I go now, they want you to donate. And you can't, you use a credit card, and you can't complete your transaction without pushing a button here. I'm satisfied with the service and I don't want to donate and all this kind of stuff before you can complete your transaction.
Yeah, I use PayPal when I buy something online. I often will use PayPal. And when I get to the end to pay, there are several choices there, and at least two of those choices include giving money to somebody in addition to paying my PayPal bill. And it's pretty easy to make a mistake and click the one you didn't mean to click.
I think they do that on purpose.
Well, yeah.
And I was reading I don't want to take up too much time. I don't normally do, but I was reading where the Republicans, about 10 to 1, have got an organization raising money for them, and they're using tactics like that on people that not really in their right mind, and people have gave everybody every cent they have, not really meaning to, but the way they word it, they get the money out of them.
Well, what you're talking about is a button that you click that you think you're giving a one-time donation, but you're actually setting up a monthly donation, and a lot of people have made that mistake.
I understand, and it would be real easy for somebody to do that, and then you can't get out of it. They won't let you out of it. You know, they keep right on taking your money out, and the only thing you can do is just take all your money out of the bank. With somebody that's not in full capacity, they're not capable of doing their things.
Well,
a lot of them.
You can always go to your bank, and if it's coming from your bank, you can always go to the bank and said, I'm canceling this, do not honor
Right.
this any longer. And then they'll do that. But again, some folks might not know that they can do that.
Right. Somebody stole a bunch of my checks, and I had to go to the bank and just close the checking account out to keep them from using all my checks.
Well, that's
So
a
you
nuisance.
Yeah, well, you can't. I'm taking too much time, so I'll let you go. Appreciate you taking my call.
Thanks for calling. Good to hear from you. We have a line open right now if you'd like to give us a call, and I'd best look at the clock. Actually, we are just about out of time. Hello, caller. You're on the air. We've got about a minute.
Okay, it's me. How you?
Okay, here you are again with 1 minute.
Okay. Hey, when you're in a situation like that and they're taking out money, you usually go on your computer and you click unsubscribe. And you don't have to take money out of your bank. Or you can go to your bank and get a new debit card. And,
Sure.
No big deal doing that.
There are steps you can take.
Yeah. Now, I didn't hear. I just come in the middle of it just then and caught the last end of it. I don't know what it was. I just know that anything taking your money out, like he said, you're signing usually a 6-month contract and think it's for 1 month. And if you're in that situation and they're going to take your money anyway, go to your bank and get you a new debit card.
Well, now you have time to tell everybody good night.
Good night, everybody. Y'all have a blessed night. Sleep well. You too, Ken.
Thanks for calling. And that's all the time we have for Star Talk. We're on the air Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. I hope you'll join us next time. Thanks for watching. I'm Ken Echols.